Hey, what's up guys, it's Texmer talking to you here, and today I want to talk about the recent rumors from Mark Gurman. Yes, it's quite strange to all have rumors in January. I wouldn't be expecting to deliver you news in January. Normally it's quite stale and we don't have a lot of Apple leaks, but in today's video I will talk about the recent Apple rumors, talking about the iMac Pro, the Mac Pro, Apple Pro Display, and even more with the M2 and so on. So I think that Mark Gurman released the biggest bombshell and confirming a lot of old leaks. It's very important to talk about. And so in this video, like I told you, I will cover them all. And if you are excited, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to my channel. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe, of course, and keep up with my videos. I have a lot of videos like the reviews of the MacBook Pro, the M1 Max MacBook Pro, the iPhones comparisons. If you like that, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you are keep up with my videos. So, roll the intro. Like I was telling you, the Mark Gurman report is quite important because it reveals a lot. According to Mark Gurman, the Apple Silicon transition will be over in this 2022 WWDC, so by June. What this means is that the Mac Pro, the iMac Pro with the M1 Max chip, and of course the Mac Mini M1 and M1 Max will be over by around June. So we should expect at least two more events until June, the Apple event and the WWDC. According to Mark Gurman, we will see the Pro lineup be updated with the Apple Silicon generation around WWDC. So it's quite normal for Apple to update their computers and their Pro lineup in WWDC because that's a more developer focused event where you see more pros in it, while the March event is normally a consumer related event. So I'm expecting to see probably consumer type 27-inch iMac in March or April timeline, which has the same design as a 24-inch M1 iMac, and so I think that it's quite important to distinguish these two lineups, the Pro lineup and the consumer type lineup. In the consumer type lineup, I think we'll see one more computer, which is the M1 27-inch iMac with, of course, the same design as the M1 24-inch, or the M1 Pro and the M1 Max in this device. If I had to bet, I think it will be, and we will see an M1 Pro and M1 Max. But then the most important part would be on WWDC, where Apple will announce probably the M1 Pro and the M1 Max Mac Mini, which will feature a new redesign. According to John Prosser, this M1 Max on M1 Pro Mac Mini will have a retro type of design, which will be pretty cool, but I don't know if that's true or not. But let's see if Apple differentiates the Pro lineup of Mac Mini and the normal lineup of Mac Mini. But rather than this M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini, we will also see the M1 Max iMac Pro, which is a new variant of the 27-inch iMac. This device will have a 27-inch display with ProMotion and Mini LED technology. This is quite exciting because this is the first time that we see such a used display and such a good display from Apple. A 27-inch ProMotion Mini LED technology. It's the best display that Apple will ever made until now, and I'm so excited for it. It's even better than the Pro Display XDR, which in today's age, it's very, very outdated and old. But I think that costing $6,000, Apple needs to update it. And so, according to Mark Gurman, we should expect a new version of the Pro Display XDR, which is half the price, and let's see if Apple puts the stand at half of the price too. Instead of $1,000, it's $500. But according to Mark Gurman, you should start around $2,500. It will be a 27-inch display with ProMotion and Mini LED. Probably the same display as the iMac Pro, but in a different form factor, which this tells us that it will probably have Apple Silicon, the A13, according to all the rumors also, and so this would be a different type of display, replacing the older Display XDR. This is very exciting because now we have a pro consumer type of display, not a pro grade only industry and enterprise like display, like the current Pro Display XDR, because that's ridiculous. Who would pay $6,000 for display? Then, of course, according to Mark Gurman, we should also see the ending of the Intel lineup. And so, of course, we should see the replacement of the Mac Pro. According to Mark Gurman, this Mac Pro will be smaller and less upgradable, but it will have the Apple Silicon inside. According to a lot of YouTubers theorizing and even more leakers, we are expecting to see double and even quadra M1 Max in this device. This Mac Pro would be insane. Although it would be smaller, it will be even more powerful than the current Intel Mac Pro. It will have even more RAM than the current MacBook Pros, and it will have an amazing CPU and GPU power because of the Quadro M1 Max. Imagine now we have an amazing 10 core and 8 high performance cores, 2 high efficiency cores on the current M1 Max chip. But imagine if you had 4, so it will have 40 CPU cores, which would be incredible, just incredible to see, and 32 GPU cores of performance with 8 high performance cores would be the best chip out there. Insane performance, outperforming every single computer and even being more efficient, quiet, and the fans don't need to turn that loud because it has an amazing 8 high efficiency cores. So this device will be smaller because it doesn't need as much thermal design as the current Mac Pro. Of course, it won't be as upgradable, but I'm expecting Apple to put some kind of upgradability because it will probably be able to buy one M1 Max and then put another one and another one and another one in stacks. So you will be able to buy separate M1 Maxes. That would be what I would like. So for example, if you want to start with one M1 Max only, but then you notice that it's not enough and you want to buy another one, you just go to Apple Store and buy a second M1 Max and you have double M1 Maxes. Or do you need another one? And you go and you buy another one and you have 3 M1 Maxes. And do you need another one? And you go and you buy a 4th one. So that would be the same thing as upgrading the GPU down the road or even upgrading the CPU. And of course, I don't think the RAM will be upgradable because that's interlinked with the CPU. So the only thing will be available is the CPU upgradability. And I think that will be pretty cool and a pretty modular computer, but it will have a ton of I/O. It will have a lot of things that you are probably not thinking about, like HDMI 2.0, tons of ports like that. It will have USB-C Type 4, like Thunderbolt 4. It will have even more USB-A's probably. It will have SD card slot, iPhone jack, all of those things. And so this WWDC is shaping up to be quite exciting. Of course, if you think about it, Apple just upgraded the M1 Max and M1 Pro MacBook Pros, and those were incredible. But the last upgrade that we saw for the Apple Silicon before that was the 2020 Apple Silicon unveiling, and we saw the M1 MacBook Pro, the M1 MacBook Air. And so, according to Gerben, we will only see the M2 MacBook Air later in the year. So that we're market transition of 2 years for each computer. That's quite strange. But if you think about it, the 2019 Intel version took 2 years to update. If Gerben is right and we see a Mac Pro in 2022, that means that it took around 3 years to upgrade the Intel Mac Pro, which was on 2019 on WWDC. Of course, if you think about it, that's a long time, and you should not expect to upgrade Apple Silicon every single year. And that's why I believe that Mark Gurman is correct when he's saying that the M2 MacBook Pro and M2 MacBook Air should be available around later in the year, in the 4th quarter of the year. Because that makes sense. That marks the 2-year anniversary of the M1, and that's Apple squeezing as much as they can of that CPU. And that makes a lot of sense. And so, that's what I'm here to tell you. According to Mark Gurman, we should see the end of the Intel generation in WWDC. That's important also. But according to Mark Gurman too, we should see the M2 MacBook Air at the end of the year, which shapes up to be a quite of a year. 2022 is shaping up to be an incredible year for the Mac, even better than the 2021 and 2020. So let's see what 2022 brings us. But the most important part should be the cheaper displays, which would be a Pro Display XDR. Also, Deal in DKD, another leaker, talked about the fact that there's 2 more displays on the works, a cheaper model, and I'm quite expecting that would be probably the LG Ultrafine. But if Apple brings more like cinema displays, they just pick the display from the iMac and put it there, that would be incredible. Make it cheaper, have a slim design, no bezels, have some ports, and call it a day. Cheap like $1,000, and it will be pretty cool for pros. To accompany my M1 Max MacBook Pro, or even to accompany a Mac Pro, which brings me to a dilemma. Which one would you prefer? The M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini, or the iMac Pro? That would be quite an interesting decision because you have to decide between an all-in-one or the Mac Mini with an Apple display. Both are only Apple products, but then you will be able to decide if you want to spend $1,000 on the display and want to upgrade the computer part later, or you just want to buy an all-in-one and be settled. But when you want to upgrade your computer, switch it on, make it more powerful, you will have to upgrade all of the things: the display, the computer, the speakers, all of that. But there's also a downside for going the M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini, because you will have to buy speakers, you have to buy a mouse and a keyboard. So that's quite an interesting debate. For me, of course, I still prefer my M1 Max MacBook Pro. This is the best form factor for me because it's very fast, it's very reliable, it's a laptop, makes it portable, so I can travel around my houses one university and my college dorm room. And of course, it's very important for me that it's portable because I travel a lot and I need to work on the go. So this M1 Max Macro Pro serves me very, very well. This is an investment for a ton of years. But according to Mark Gurman, we should expect this CPU and this GPU present here on this Macro Pro to come to more thermal available designs and even more powerful configurations. So I'm very happy to see what Apple does with this new Apple Silicon transition and the end of the Apple Silicon transition. We had the first part, which was the M1 and the replacement of the consumer type computer. Now we had the second part with the M1 Max MacBook Pro and the M1 Pro MacBook Pros, which were a prosumer type of replacement, and now we will see the real Pro computers from Apple, the most powerful computers that took a long time to work on, the Mac Pro, the iMac Pro, and possibly the M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini. I don't think that the M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini will be as cheap as we are thinking, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. That would cannibalize sales from the iMac. So if we see an M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini, then we should expect it to be even more expensive than we are thinking, probably around the $1,500, $1,600 type of liking, because then we will be able to buy a $1,000 like Pro display from Apple, like a cinema type of display, and then that would be around the $2,500 price mark, where I think that the iMac Pro will start. And of course, the Mac Pro will probably start around the $5,000 mark, but only go until $10,000. But let me know on the comments down below what are your opinions on these MacBook Pros, the iMac Pros, the Mac Pro, the M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini. Let me know which computer are you most excited for in the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Well, thank you all for supporting me. It's been an incredible journey and I couldn't be more happy. But of course, I'm also expecting an incredible 2022 and happy 2022 everyone, because I expect huge things from this year. Of course, I will be covering every Apple event, since the March event to the WWDC to the iPhone 14 event, and probably to the Mac Apple event at the end of the year. And I couldn't be more excited. I won't buy the iMac Pro, I won't buy the Mac Pro, I won't buy the Mac Mini. I don't need those. I would like to buy one just to review, but I don't have the money to pay for that. But of course, if you are excited for the Mac Pro and iMac Pro, there will be a lot of content around that timeline. And in WWDC 2022, you should expect the release or the announcement. I'm not quite sure if Apple will announce the Mac Pro on WWDC and then just release it at the end of the year, like they did in 2019, or they will just release it and call it a day on WWDC 2022. That depends a lot. But I do think, and I do believe that the iMac Pro will be available on WWDC 2022, just to buy, because I don't think Apple will delay that computer that much. But let me know in the comments down below which are your opinions on this, and which computer would you prefer, the iMac Pro, the all-in-one, or the M1 Pro and M1 Max Mac Mini with an Apple Cinema display. Let me know in the comments down below which you prefer, all-in-one, easy to use, or upgradability. This is Textumer talking to you here. Bye.